Welcome back to ESPR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted as always to be joined by Gregory Dahl and Eliot. Greg, this is the big fight breakdown for Liam Smith versus Chris Eubank Jr. 2, which is the rematch back from February where Liam Smith scored a fourth round stoppage, which was a surprise to some people. Greg, Eliot, great to be joined by both of you. Looking forward to this one. Not long to go until the fight now. A few days away. Looking forward to breaking this one down with you, getting some opinions across and seeing what both of you think. First point I want to touch on is Liam Smith himself. I feel like his kind of career maybe went under a bit under the radar for large portions. He's not really had a big fight in the UK until the Eubank fight a few months ago. Obviously, he had those fights against Canelo and Munguia, which he was kind of expected to lose and did, to be fair to him. But yeah, in his kind of mid-30s now, and he's really kind of at the peak of his powers, you could say. I do want to ask both of you, how good is he? Look, he is a former world champion. He's beaten Chris Eubank Jr. by stoppage, which hasn't been done before. Do you consider this guy to be like world level now, fringe world level, top five in the division? How would you describe him? Greg, I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on the current level that Liam Smith's operating at now?
Yeah, delighted to be speaking to you guys, both Eliots. Elliot, I've always thought that Liam Smith is world class. I called it years ago, even before I knew you guys. ESPR boxing, I always thought Liam Smith had a world title in him, especially at 154. You look at his losses, you can't really argue. Canelo Alvarez, Jaime Munguia. I thought he would have put up a better show against Munguia, to be honest with you. Kurbanov could have really went either way, couldn't it? But I've always thought he's world class, Elliot. Very, very good fighter. And, you know, I'm one to keep personal feelings of fighters out of the way. So what I'm telling you is legitimate. I do think that Liam Smith has always been a world class fighter. So, yeah, credit where it's due.
And what is it about him that makes you think he's world class? Because obviously, if you look at his best wins, you don't have, to be fair, you don't have that fantastic list of fighters outside of Eubank Jr. Like Anthony Fowler, Liam Williams spring to mind for me personally. Those are both kind of good domestic grud matches, especially the one against Fowler, which was an all-Scouse derby. But which wins have kind of stood out to you that make you say that he's world class?
I'll be honest with you, Elliot. It's not even so much his wins that make me think he's world class. It's when he was WBO world light middleweight champion. I looked at the champions round about that time, the champions that are there now. I don't think any would disgrace him. I think he would put up a good fight against them all. So to me, that tells me that a fighter is world class. If the guys who are the best in the division, if Liam Smith would hold his own with them, maybe or maybe not beat them, that's a guy's at world level. I think we all have to say credit where it's due. So yes, I get that he doesn't have the marquee names on his record, but let's be honest, there's guys that Canelo Alvarez has blasted out in 4 and 6 rounds, and Liam Smith stayed in there when he was almost at the peak of his powers for 9 rounds. He's just a good all-round fighter, Elliot. I would go as far as saying the last 8 years or so, the fighters at 154, 160, let's be honest, you're looking at Golovkin and Canelo. That you need to give most fighters a pass with them too, but with most other fighters, he would hang with them. Whether he would win or not, that's a different bit. We're discussing world class. We're not saying someone's the best. It's someone being world class, and I think Liam Smith has been for quite some time.
Brilliant. Eliot, I'll ask the same question to you. What's your opinion? Do you agree with what Greg? Do you see Liam Smith as world class?
I'd agree with Greg. Yeah, I think he is world class. I think you'd have to say that. Obviously, even the guys he's beaten recently have been kind of like silver champions, haven't they? Like IBO, whatever those sort of belts you sort of have it around there that aren't necessarily like world titles or fully fledged world titles. He's dispatched those guys fairly easily. And to be honest with you, I kind of agree with Greg as well. Even in the losses he's had, like the way he's lost as well, it's been incredible. I think obviously the Munguia win, like obviously the Munguia loss, obviously you kind of wanted him to do a bit better in there, but the Korbanov one, like Greg said, 50-50, and a lot of people obviously thought he won that fight as well. Canelo's it's no shake losing that fight as well. So yeah, I think he's world level still. Yeah, I do believe that. Yeah.
No, brilliant. 35 years old now, and we'll see what's left of his career. If he wants to maybe become world champion again, there's kind of potential big fights. out there left for him. I think there's been discussions about a potential fight with Conor Benn if he beats Eubank Jr. again. So yeah, we will see what happens in Liam Smith. But I do think he's kind of at the age of 35. He's now getting the most recognition, and there's most kind of eyes on him now more than there's ever been before, even when he did win a world title. Next question, gents. Do want to ask about Eubank Jr. Quite a complex character. Feel like we could do kind of a video just on his side of the big fight of the big fight breakdown. But one topic I do want to discuss with you is his change of trainer again. So he's with Bomac now, Terence Crawford's trainer, of course. He's with Roy Jones Jr. for a period of time. He obviously had his dad, Eubank Sr. in his career in the past. He's with Adam Booth for a period. I'm probably missing a couple of trainers there. He's had his fair share of trainers, is what I'm trying to say. Eliot, what are your thoughts on him? A, changing trainer yet again. B, going to such an established, an established, well-known trainer as well. And how do you think that's gonna work for him?
It's a complex one because obviously Chris Eubank Jr. is complex fire. But to be honest with you, I think it's a terrible call. I'm going to say that the reason I think it's a terrible call is it's almost like you see this with trainers, don't you? Where like they have a couple of marquee wins or like a marquee fighter, and then other people just assume that if they go and train with them, that's going to sort of rub off with them. And I just don't see that happening here. Like think of obviously the time that Crawford's trainers spent with Crawford, and obviously the elite fighter that Crawford is as well. Like that's obviously a beautiful partnership. You know, when you think of other trainers, like I mean, even kind of like trainers like when Hatton went to like Mayweather Senior, or like people went to Enzo Calzaghe at one point or whatever, and all those, or when even AJ going to Derek James now, it's like it doesn't rub off in that same way. I don't think. So for me, I almost feel like I think it's too late for Chris Eubank Jr. Honestly, trained with whoever he wants. He went obviously ages without a trainer, didn't he? He was training himself. Essentially, just looked like a guy that was like in great gym like conditioning and like in real like really superb conditioning. Can't fault that. But obviously lacked a bit of the actual boxing training. So I think he kind of needed someone more stability earlier in his career, frankly. And I think it's too late, no matter who trains him now, frankly, to teach him anything. So really, it's just a case of getting ready and see if he can overcome Liam Smith with what he already knows. I think really, rather than anything else.
I do have to ask though: do you think he should have stuck with Roy Jones then, or do you think he should have maybe gone for something else?
I don't think he should have stuck necessarily with Roy Jones. No, I think in that early period, I'm not saying like he should have been trained by his dad, but in that period where like his dad basically was running all of his media, etc. I think like around that time, those formative years, you need someone essentially, I think, that's going to essentially get a hold of you, like kind of in a way, I suppose, like Fury had with Peter Fury at that point as well, like someone who can kind of take you to a certain stability at a certain point. And then if you change trainers after that, I kind of feel like you've already got a good enough base. But I think he needed someone at that stage of his career, frankly. I think the horse had bolted by the time Roy Jones was there as well, and that was like a good media link up. Everyone's like, like, will it make him smooth? Will it make him slick like Roy Jones? Obviously not. So yeah, I honestly, you can pick trainers out of a hat, frankly, and throw them in with Chris Eubank Jr. Frankly, I don't think it makes much difference.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying now, and I don't necessarily disagree. It was an interesting partnership with Roy Jones. Obviously, you can't disagree that Roy Jones Jr. was a fantastic fighter. Whether he's a fantastic trainer is a completely different question, and I don't think we saw Eubank Jr. deliver a particularly impressive performance under the tutelage of Roy Jones Jr. Greg, same question to you. Chris Eubank Jr. going to Brian McIntyre, good move or bad move?
Something, Eliot, the hardest thing I find about being a part of ESBR boxing is leaving your personal feelings at the front door when you do one of these videos. I couldn't help but agree with almost everything that Eliot Greg said there. There was times where I was like, wish he wouldn't be saying that, but you have to be honest, and I think he's jumped on a bandwagon where a guy's had a good win. He's got another decent fighter in Keyshawn Davis, and Chris Eubank thinks that this might rub off on him. There's one problem with Chris Eubank: he doesn't listen. He doesn't listen to his dad. He didn't listen to anyone. And Chris Eubank Jr. is one of my favourite UK fighters of all time because I love that style. I love that energy. I love the no fear of anyone, 10-punch combinations that's everything I love in boxing. But it doesn't matter. The guy's in his mid-30s now. He's not going to listen. If I was advising Chris Eubank, I think he needs an aggressive trainer that will teach him how to throw the jab better and throw in bursts. That's what he's good at. I hope that the move is good for him, but to answer your question, it's too late in the day. Chris Eubank needs to go back to what he does best, and that's throw combinations and have balls of steel. That's his chance in this fight.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with you. I think another factor for me is that we all know Brian McIntyre in recent months. He's been focused on Terence Crawford fighting Errol Spence. With respect, his focus hasn't been Chris Eubank Jr. fighting Liam Smith. Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence at the time we're speaking was 3 weeks ago. So that means there's a 5-week period between that fight happening and this fight happening. And I don't think that's enough time for his attention to be worthwhile, basically. So I do agree with both of you, but I feel like we'd all agree when we say, should he have left Roy Jones Jr. or should that partnership be no longer? Yes. But does it matter where he goes to? Not so much. But I just personally, I would have liked to have seen him gone to a trainer that's going to give him 100% of his time and effort and be the center of attention for a good long camp rather than 5 weeks. So we'll see what effect it has. Going to do things a little bit differently than this video, gents. We're going to do prediction video. We're going to do predictions now, and then we're going to discuss where the winner of your prediction would go next. Can see that Greg doesn't want to go first, so I'm going to give it to Eliot. Eliot, at this stage, what is your prediction for Liam Smith versus Chris Eubank Jr. 2?
I think Smith beats him again. It's tough because, like Greg says, like if Eubank obviously uses the jab better and can assert himself physically, still with that size advantage, you'd expect him. There is obviously he's a live fighter in this fight, but I just feel like Greg also said earlier, Liam Smith's just all round better, and we saw Eubank surprisingly kind of fold when Smith stuck it on him last time, and I feel like at some point he's just going to do the same thing again. Whether it'll be as early, maybe not. I think if it is going to be a stoppage for Smith, it'll be kind of after the 7th round, 7-8, after somewhere like that. But I think Smith's going to beat him again. It's like one of those things where, to me, it's like certain fighters, when they take rematches, it's just not the best decision. I mean, Eubank had to do it, but I almost feel like he's not going to prevail here. And I think, where he goes after that, fuck knows. But I think Smith's going to beat him, frankly.
Yeah, I'll go next. I do agree with you. I think this fight could be more competitive. I think Eubank is going to be aware that this guy has just stopped him. And let's not forget, it was quite a bad stoppage back in January. Eubank didn't know where he was for a few seconds. It wasn't kind of one of these stoppages that was debatable. So I just think Eubank's going to be worried that this guy can punch and this guy can hurt him. So therefore, I do think Liam Smith will stop him again, but I think it will be in the last period of the fight, rounds 9 to 12. Is when I see it happening. I expect it to be an entertaining fight. Eubank can be quite an entertaining fighter. That's what I expect. Greg, I'm going to hand the floor to you now. What's your prediction?
I'm dreading this. It's just hard because I like Eubank a lot. I really like him. I'm one of the only people I think that do. But like I say, opinions need to be left at the front door. It's a tough one, Elliot, because for me, I had him 3-up against Liam Smith, I think, if I look back correctly. And the 4th round, he was caught, and he was caught well, and he was out on his feet. Good stoppage. There's nothing to say that he can't do that again, but be a bit more cautious and build up a lead. And that's where the confliction with me comes from, guys, because I'm not just thinking, well, I like Chris Eubank, so I'm going to try and find ways that he can win. If you're asking me now, I might change fight week, but rematches tend to follow suit. It's hard to see past Liam Smith. I can see where both you guys are coming from, and I think Liam Smith maybe 8 to 12, 9 to 12 is a really good shout, because Eubank might give it all and it just might not be there. I'm going to come out and say it now, and I'm really not meaning to get personal. Chris Eubank has not been the same fighter since his brother died. He hasn't been, and that's okay. That's so normal. It is a natural thing to happen to a fighter, but he's not been the same guy. And I'm not wanting to kick a guy when he's down, but we're here to discuss boxing and who wins a fight. I just struggle to see past Liam Smith guys and maybe 9-12 or winning relatively wide on points after a hard beginning.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, mate. It's just kind of good to kind of get a breakdown from both of you on the actual prediction as well. But yeah, I think we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. Greg, going to go back to you. If Liam Smith does win this fight, what do you think is going to happen next? 35 years old. Obviously, this fight's at middleweight. I question whether he's going to move back down to super welterweight personally. What do you think is going to happen? I think there's some really tough fights if he wants to fight for a world title. I think Janabek being one of them, who holds the WBO title. What do you see happening?
Yeah, it's a good question, Eliot. I think you stay away from Janabek Alimnikali. There's no money in fighting him. Very good fighter. If he brings something to the table other than his world title, roll the dice. But other than that, Liam Smith does need to roll the dice. And I don't know why, but I get the feeling that we're not hearing anything from Gennady Golovkin. A few of those titles might become scarce soon. Let's not count Liam Smith out, going and fighting for a world title in a winnable fight. So I think it's got to be the world title next if he beats Chris Eubank. Yeah,
we shall see. Obviously, Jamal Charlo, who is still the WBC world champion despite having not fought for a while. But we'll see. I think could be the case where it's kind of the biggest money fight possibly. So we'll see. Hopefully, some good options for him if he does win.